welcome. I know you've heard that a lot today, but it's a pleasure for us to add our welcome this afternoon. I think it's interesting how they stick career services after financial aid. You find out how much debt you're going to have, and then you try to figure out how you're going to pay for it with this great job after graduating from SAIS, which of course all of you will have. I'm Ron Lambert. I'm the Director of Career Services here. I also teach in Global Theory and History. I teach a course in Leaders and Leadership every spring semester. This is my 16th year here at SAIS, and before coming here, I worked at INSEAD, a business school over in Fontainebleau, France, and have done this and that. I'm going to let our team introduce themselves as we go along, rather than have introductions right here at the beginning. I think you're fortunate in that SAIS has taken career development, professional development very, very seriously. And I've seen our staff and resources grow quite a bit, actually, over the years I've been here. We're a staff of 8 here in Washington. We're a staff of 2 in Bologna. And we're fortunate to have Mira Shankar, Director of Career Services in Bologna, here with us this afternoon. We take a very, very proactive stance in working with all SAIS students, whether they're in Bologna, in Washington, and increasingly in Nanjing. What's that mean? To us, that means we get involved with you from day one. We'll leave you alone in preterm. You're going to have enough to do during preterm. But as soon as classes start, and you'll be hearing my colleague Michael McKenzie talk about it, we get you right into a career course. All right, so let me ask you a question. Imagine a career development continuum from 5 to 1. 5, you know exactly what you want to do when you leave here at SAIS. You've decided the employer of choice, the position you want to go into, you know how to market yourself there, you are ready to go out there with your SAIS degree and market to this specific thing. 1, you're a little bit of a blank slate. You're not sure what you want to do. There's lots of choices, maybe public, maybe nonprofit, we'll see. And then 3, you've got some vague idea. How many 5s in the room, first of all? Thank you. How many 1s in the room? All right, the honest folks. All right, there are a few back there. And the 3s? The great unwashed 3s. So our task is to work to get you from 3 to 5 as quickly as possible. Our tagline for the office is helping you manage your career. None of us up here, as much as you'd like us to, can get you a job. That's your task. Our job is to help you find focus, develop strategy, milk the network of contacts, which I think SAIS is fabulous for, to land that position, and to gain the professional skills that you need in that position during your time here at SAIS. So we're going to spend a few minutes this afternoon talking about how do we do that. We're going to try to go through it pretty quickly, so we want you to have time to answer questions, and we look forward to working with you. I wouldn't be here after 16 years if it weren't a great place to work, and it is. I'm also a Hopkins graduate, too, so I'm a little bit biased. Mira?
Hello, everybody. I'm Mira Shankar, Director of the Career Services Office in Bologna. Could I just see a show of hands? How many people am I speaking to who are considering Bologna here? Okay, a good number of you. And we're also going to have the Bologna panel afterwards, so if there are any questions that we don't get to here, then we can continue on in the next panel, which I think is here as well. This is going to be, I'm actually coming on 9 years at the end of this week, 9 years working at SAIS, and I agree, it's a great place to work. Bologna, I'm particularly fond of, and let me ask that group again, how many people are doing one of the one-year programs or would be in their second year in Bologna? No, everybody the first year, okay. In fact, that tends to be the case most of the time, and so we have geared our programming primarily to first-year students, and at the same time, what we're trying to do being based in Europe is try to service students on all campuses in terms of employment opportunities, either internships or full-time opportunities that are located in Europe. So what I do is a mix of alumni relations and career services, which actually link up quite nicely together because that network is one of the best things about this place. I think also particularly the Bologna network is great, and there is a person who I should name here who does a lot of the legwork with all of you on a day-to-day basis, and her name is Anne Gagliardi, and she works very, very closely with the students on our campus. I think As far as all of the offices across different, the two campuses are concerned, I think the Career Services office is actually one of the best integrated. We try to do similar programming in terms of the career course that is offered that is required of all first-year students. That was jointly developed and we implement it. We, on the other hand, do not leave you to your own devices during preterm. We have about 2/3 of our student body who come to Bologna during preterm to do either the intensive language courses or the intensive econ, and now they're going to be core courses, I believe, offered as well. And so we actually get you even from day 2 of preterm, and sometimes people are looking very shocked, like deer in the headlights, saying, wait a second, I just left my job or my other program of study, and I didn't think I had to think about this stuff too soon. But we actually want to get you thinking about it very, very soon, because we think it's an iterative process. It takes a lot of time to work through what it is that you like to do, what it is that you can do, and learn what the different options are. And that's what we try to do. I'm going to leave it at that and pass it over to Michael.
Actually, I think we're going to skip down to Martina, because you have to go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Congratulations on being accepted to SAIS. This is a great institution, and like Ron and Mira, I've been here almost 5 years, so it's a great place to work, too. One of the exciting opportunities that you would have as a SAIS student is the opportunity to take co-curricular courses in skill sets that are really in demand by employers. As our job in Career Services is to help you manage your career, we feel it's important that we help you identify what those skills are and provide you the training that you might not necessarily get in an academic classroom. And these courses just run from technical skills like Excel and Stata to leadership skills, writing skills, presentation skills. For those of you who are considering the international finance specialization, you'll get to know me really well, because you'll have some requirements that we'll be able to help you meet through these skills courses. We bring in an outfit called Training the Street that teaches financial modeling and corporate valuation, and time again we have students come to us and say, wow, I am so glad I took that course, because that's what nailed me this job interview. If it was between me and another candidate, and I know I got it because I've had that training. So what those type of courses do is it puts you sort of on par with MBA students in certain industries, when you have the opportunity to show that not only you have the international coursework and the economics, but you have some of these hard, fast skills as well. There are non-credit courses. They're completely optional. You're not required to do them. They're just available if you choose to grab that opportunity. They're limited in the number that you can take in any given semester. We have courses taught both on campus and online, and you're able to take up to 2 on campus and 1 online course in any given semester. Although your first semester here, I wouldn't recommend doing more than perhaps 1 online course, because you'll be overwhelmed with all the options and opportunities you have. Not just academically, but for your professional development. And that's one of the toughest things you'll have to do, is choose. Gosh, do I go listen to that employer speak? Do I take that skills course? Oh, what do I do? And then, maybe Hillary Clinton will be here. So yeah, it's a great position to be in, but at the same time, it will frustrate you to have so many choices. The courses that we offer online are available on the website. Right now, all you would see is what's being offered during the spring term, but shortly, the courses that will be offered in the fall will be available. And if you have any questions, I'm Martina Lyons, and I'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
Somebody else I want to introduce also is Liz Jimenez. Liz, wave out there. Liz is our program coordinator, and she is our first line of information and question answering up in our office, which is in NITSA 212. Janet Burrows, who is not here today, is our Assistant Director of Employer Relations and works a lot with our career fairs and employers. It's a good team. Michael, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ron. I'm Michael McKenzie. I'm Senior Associate Director, and I work specifically on the programming and counseling side, and the student services in particular. And I want to explain kind of our overview, what we look at in our programming, what we do for students, our counseling team, and how we approach things. And then we're each going to give a little bit of a sector breakdown of what the programming that we provide, and what we also know has been happening within each one of the different sectors. First off, I came to SAIS in 2004 after finishing a dual master's degree at the University of Denver, so I'm not that far removed from debt, and I'm still paying off my loans as well. So that investment and the amount of work, and I've very luckily landed in a place where over time your career grows, and it was like our alumni often say here at SAIS that your first job is your last class, and our approach even coming into it is your life is a continuing learning cycle, and like Mira said, it is very iterative. You're constantly reflecting and looking upon what you want to do. How we approach things is, as students coming in, everyone that's at the 5, what tends to happen, I look down at the 1-5, you start to look around and go to these different presentations, go, oh, I would consider this, and people are at the 1s will continue to kind of narrow, and people at the 3s will bounce back and forth a little bit. And you're constantly going through this process of evaluating what's the best choice for you and where can I go with a degree. Beautiful thing about SAIS students is, and people that come through an IR degree, especially with the econ component, is you have very diversified skills. As you look at our stats, and I think everyone should have received in your packets this, and if you haven't before, this is all of our employment outcome report. It shows where in the different sector areas, and then a breakdown of the different areas where people end up. And you'll see our students go to different sectors. What we know on the backside as well is not only do students go to all the different sectors, they look in every different sector. So part of our approach with the course is to get people to develop a professional development plan. We have a four-week course that we mirror at the campus in Bologna, where it's really about you talking about the strategy, reflecting upon what you want to do, developing a good set of a SWOT analysis, what are your strengths, weaknesses, what are the opportunities and threats that are out there, and then developing a good plan of how you're going to attack that. And you might tack halfway through. People come back from an internship. I always wanted to be in the State Department. I did an internship in the State Department. I do not want to be in the State Department. And you'll reevaluate and do that again. So that's really the approach with the course, and we want to bring everyone along to that. But in addition to that, we start to focus down and have very diversified programming across all the different sectors to really help not only the job search process to understand the different sectors, but also what the process looks like and how you might approach it very differently from consulting to public sector, and how you present yourself. In our overall, we have our general programming that we'll talk about in a little bit in sector focus, but we also divide up our counseling team. We have 3 primary counselors, and Setu is going to talk in a minute, covers mostly nonprofit multilateral, and we're actually hiring for our private sector, I should say finance, consulting, and international business sector. And Amberine Mirza is actually a current M.I.P.P. student and has an HR, international, and finance background that's working part-time in our office. To help with that, I wanted to recognize her to take some questions as well. Our counseling team is divided up where we do have expertise. We do cover all different sectors. For example, I cover defense, intel, but I might work with nonprofits, think tanks, as well as private sector consulting, as well as the intel and security field. I also cover trade, econ, mainly foreign policy as well. So we cover a broad base, but we try to figure out our expertise in different areas of where people are searching, the process that's there, and how they approach it. We do have scheduled appointments for meetings that usually students have. It's about a week out is what you wait, and everything from 30 minutes to mock interviews of 45 minutes to an hour. We also have drop-in times. We know people are constantly, at this time of year, we're very flexible because someone's coming into the office and saying, I've gotten 2 offers. How do I decide this? And we try to respond to that quickly by having daily drop-in hours. So we have a counseling team that has specializations but works across those different areas, but also tries to respond as best we can to meet students on those one-on-one needs. Even though we have a course, the constant feedback is you want that personal approach and attention, and that's what we try to give. Breaking from the general programming is we have lots of things online. Hopefully you've looked around a bit there to see what we have. We also have an online system where we have our jobs, all of our programming and things that you'll learn more about later. I won't go into detail there. The other thing I want to note is, did any of you in your going around to the different activities groups out here go to any of the career clubs and meet with them? I think a unique aspect with our school that's developed since I've been here is we have career clubs that focus on finance, consulting, defense intel, international organizations. And a second approach that we have is we want students to work together. We want you to share information, share tasks, bring in panels, and we rely upon those student groups to drive a lot of our programming. It's not us alone, it's us working together to share information, to figure out strategies, to keep on top of the market and where things are going. So again, on the website, look at those career clubs and get engaged in those. Now, shifting from the general stuff to the public sector, as you'll see and you look at the stats, about 23% last year were in public sector, but that varies 23, 24, 25%. About a quarter go into public sector, mainly local government, U.S. government, and then foreign governments. And that is across the board. The nice thing in government, you can do almost anything. What's going to happen over the next year, I think the nice thing with SAIS students as the economy or the things change in government and funding, I'm seeing a lot of students are diversifying their skills, being able to look at nonprofits and private sector as well. The other key thing with the public sector I want to note is we do work closely with the Presidential Management Fellows Program. Any of you know this? Anyone in public sector looking at that? We had 28 this last year. We had 103 nominees, 41 semifinalists, and 28 finalists that are out there searching to become fellows right now. So we've done very well with that. The students are very smart and do well. I put it on the students. But we provide a lot of support around that, as well as the Foreign Service. The Foreign Service is here, the State Department, to do prep sessions once a month. They host for the entire city, but we have a relationship with them where they come here, and every year students are going into the Foreign Service here. And obviously you'll be in good company because you'll work with lots of other people that are diplomats from their own countries, and learning about diplomacy and how you work through these issues in the classroom, I think, is invaluable. So I'm going to leave it at that as a real quick overview with some of the public sector stuff, and I can get to more specific things down the line. Setu.
Good afternoon and congratulations on your acceptance to SAIS. I am Setu Van Leer Hodges, and I'm one of the career counselors on staff here. I rejoined the staff last year. I'd worked at SAIS previously from '97 until 2001, and I left to join an international organization working overseas in recruitment. I came back to SAIS last year to do what I love to do, and that's to help young professionals such as yourself find their way, to develop career focus and to reach their goals. I love my job, and I hope to help everyone to really find a job that they love. I get to work with outstanding students and a truly committed staff, and that makes all the difference. And it's a wonderful environment to work in. I work primarily, but not exclusively, with students who are interested in nonprofit organizations and multilateral institutions. From last year's class, 18% of our graduates went to work with nonprofit organizations and 10% with multilaterals. And within the 10%, there's a lot of interest, and most of the students went to work for the World Bank, IFC, and IMF. And so a lot of the programming that I do, in addition to the one-on-one counseling, a lot of the programs that we organize have to do with students' interest in those organizations. So employer presentations. This semester we've had a series of sessions called World Bank Basics, where students can come in small groups and really learn about how the World Bank is structured, best entry points, and we also brought in speakers who are working in all different areas. So to help break that down, these large institutions, to really break it down so that students can see where they might fit in. In addition to that, I administer the Summer Internship Fund, and I'm right in the middle of doing that right now, and that is for students who are doing unpaid internships during the summer. We make awards just to supplement, and not a whole lot, on average $1,200 to $1,500, but it certainly helps students. I also have the honor of managing a program this year, a new program called the Nonprofit Leadership Development Initiative, in which we select up to 22 students a year, provide them with leadership opportunities, a retreat, opportunities to meet in very small groups with leaders of nonprofit organizations. Last week we had the chair of the board and the executive vice president of the IRC come and speak to students in a small group setting. And then we give you a $3,000 stipend to do an internship, a summer internship with a nonprofit organization. So that's just a brief overview, and I'm happy to take questions afterwards.
Thanks, Setzer. Private sector. I tend to work a lot in employer development across sectors, but especially within the private sector. In my time here, it's been fairly consistent. We have somewhere between 48 to 40% of our students who go into the private sector at graduation. In 2010, it was right around 40%. The three big tranches, and again, you can see more detail than you'd ever want to know in our little brochure here, are consulting, finance, all aspects of finance, and energy. We do a number of different career treks every year where we take students to the employer. We do 2 in the fall to New York, both related to finance. We do 1 to London in the fall, also related to finance. We've done consulting treks, energy treks. I lead an Asia career trek in January that takes students to Shanghai and Hong Kong, primarily in the private sector. And we have an incredible range of alumni working in the private sector. It's a great network. As has been mentioned, SAIS students have a myriad of career choices. And part of our emphasis, again, is helping you to figure out as early as possible where do you want to go so we can increase your chance of success when you're leaving here. We understand this is a big investment. I have a son who just got out of graduate school, and I really understand how big the investment is. So we want to do everything we can, and we, as Setu mentioned, I think we're a very dedicated staff in working with you all to help you achieve your professional goals. I think we'd all like to hear from you in terms of what do you really want to know about our office, alumni, money. Floor is open. Who's got questions? Over here.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I had a question about summer internships abroad. Are those common to find, or are those typically funded? I guess 2 questions.
You want to take that one, Setu?
Sure. We have many students who do internships abroad. Most students who want to do an internship abroad, I would say, find internships abroad. And particularly for the students who are interested in international development and having worked in recruitment in international development, we will encourage you to do an internship in the field because it's one of the things that employers look for.
In fact, we see more students doing internships outside their home country than we see people working full-time because of the work authorization issue. It's easier for you to get internships outside your work authorization sometimes anyway than it is for full-time. Does that help? Let's go on this side. There was someone. Yes, ma'am. In the gray. Yeah.
In terms of Bologna students, what are the resources available? If you're looking to come back to the U.S. and work in the U.S., are you at a disadvantage by being in Bologna and not being able to see employers? And then also afterwards, what are the facilities for students that want to come back?
Absolutely. I'm actually really glad that you asked that question up front because if you hadn't, then I certainly would have brought it up. It's a question that comes up all the time. And on the one level, we in Career Services use one single system to post jobs and internships. So everyone, every student on every campus has access to the same information in terms of what positions are available, okay? The other thing is, I see about a third of the students in Bologna coming back to the United States to do internships. About a third stay in Europe, and then the other remaining third is kind of split between, well, the rest of the world. We have a number of people who will go to Latin America, since that is a program that has a pretty active presence in Bologna, and also IDEV, so really all over the world, kind of split between Asia and Africa, that main third. But those are pretty good numbers in the sense every time we get to this time of year and students who maybe are not able to come to the open house also send us questions and they'll say, am I at a disadvantage? That is the question that they phrase that. And the idea that I'd like to put forward to everybody is that if you are looking for a job and you are based in Washington and you're looking in New York, it's a long-distance job search. If you're looking in London, it's a long-distance job search. It's a question of, it's a relative sort of a concept. And actually, when I look at where our alumni go, it's all over the world. And for these international jobs that you are all going to be pursuing, I think one of the most valuable things that you can get out of this time at SAIS is having somebody follow you along, help you, give you advice as you're doing these job searches, because that is stuff that is going to, those are skills that are going to serve you much longer down the line as you build your own networks and you go into it. So it's not. I don't want in any way to try to paint this as, oh well, you're really far away, but this is what I'm telling you you're going to get out of it. This is actually an essential part of what you're going to be doing in your career going forward. And we do a lot in terms of technology has really solved a lot of problems in the sense that every once in a while, particularly let's say in jobs that are related to the security field, they might say it's very important to have a face-to-face interview. Okay, that's legitimate. But a lot of times they just want to see your face. And so you will do a video conference interview. You will do a Skype interview. We have the entire building wired to do all of that. And so it's very, I hear very seldom that I didn't get this job because I didn't get to go and see this I didn't get to physically interview with somebody. Does that answer your question?
Ron, can I just add, in this little handy brochure that you have, you can see that about 60% of our students did internships outside of the U.S. Last summer from the class of 2010. Their summer internship experience, 60% of them were outside of the U.S. And it breaks it down by region, so you might find that interesting.
Thanks, Setu.
Sure.
We got a question here. Sorry.
Hi, I just want to, I don't know if you guys will be able to answer this question, but I'm curious to know for what percentage of MA students from SAIS, this is their terminal degree, or what percentage feel like they have to get another degree in order to be in mid or senior level positions, with the exception of Timothy Geithner, of course.
Actually, Martina, you want to talk about that one stat? We do actually ask our graduates as they're leaving here, how many are going on to further study? So in the class of 2010, 4% of the respondents said they were going on to further study. That, I'd say, is broken down between PhD programs, people who want to go on for that terminal degree. Some people will go on who didn't do a joint degree, and we can answer questions about joint degrees as well. Sometimes we'll go on and do an MBA later on, or a JD, or an MPH, or even an MD. So it's not a large percentage, but there are some that will go on to do that.
And it does depend on what you want to do. If you want to work in a think tank long-term, PhD is what you're going to need. In government, a lot of people I work with, there are people that float on the political side between a think tank and that policy expert and back, or people that gain expertise in an industry or expertise in a particular area. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary in government. It helps in the political side. I see it maybe a little bit more, but not all the time. PhD's number one is teaching think tanks, that type of, so it'll depend upon where you go.
I have to say, if you want to work, of course, at the IMF, a PhD would be required. At the World Bank, not necessarily unless you want to go into, for example, development economics, and then you're competing with people with PhDs.
The vast majority do end up, this is their terminal degree. Al goes over this. Yes, sir. You can just boom it out, it's all right.
I just had a question in regards to, the private sector employment. I was looking at the statistics.
I forgot we're recording this, guy.
I had a question in regards to private sector employment and the statistics on that. Seeing that the base salary is $60 grand, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how the last couple of years have fared. I've noticed that it decreased. The median salary had decreased for the last 3 years, and also relative to other competing programs. I noticed that SAIS was lower than M.I.P.P, for example, in terms of the base salary. What is that? Where does that difference come from?
The salary range of the private sector is very, very broad. So what you're looking at is that mid-range. I've seen salaries as high as 120 for some SAIS graduates going in the private sector, and as low, unfortunately, as 40. So it's a huge range. Why SAIP's average or mean is higher than ours, I have no idea. I don't think that certainly SAIS students are competing every bit as much as any other student in the private sector. There are certainly differences between salaries by geography. We find private sector salaries here in Washington are lower than private sector salaries in New York. So some of that could be geographic as well. I suspect we have more alumni here in Washington. SAIS probably has more alumni in New York City. And those salary figures also don't include signing bonuses. They don't include end-of-the-year bonuses. For people who are working in multilaterals, they don't include the tax advantage that you have working for multilaterals. So it's a broad range.
Ron, can I add one comment? I don't know what SEPA does, but I know that when we're calculating our average salaries and our medians, we take out joint degree students because it does skew the results. If we were to include joint degrees, those numbers would be a lot higher.
Martina's the person who works on all of our stats, so.
And when I'm thinking about it from the public sector perspective, for example, the Presidential Management Fellows Program, that is pretty fair, the amount that you get of people coming in entry level, what's called those government lingo GS9. However, those people advance to GS11, GS12, and shoot up to 70,000 within 2 years, which is a common thing. So we don't always keep those longer term things, but I think sometimes where you're going to be in 2, 3, 4 years can be quite different than what the immediate is. And that we see, for example, the M.I.P.P program or other recruiting programs in government.
And if salary really is one of your concerns in the private sector, a lot will depend on how much experience you have coming into SAIS.
Yeah.
If you don't have much experience coming to SAIS and you're interested in the private sector, and I give this advice to everyone, at least take a look at joint degrees also. I mean, for the one-year opportunity and tuition cost, you'll find at least the first year salary differential is pretty significant. Okay? That, again, depends on how much experience you've had. You've been very patient. Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. See, you're in the back. Go ahead.
What would you say sets the Career Services Department and the Alumni Network at SAIS apart from its competitors?
That's a great question. Thank you. First of all, when we hire, you'll find that all of us walk the talk in terms of international backgrounds and international work experience. All of us have worked outside the country. Many of us have studied outside the country. So I think for the kinds of careers that you all want to go into, we've worked in those fields, and we bring those skills to our office. I'm sure that every career office throughout APSI has got dedicated staff. I think that our office is always ahead in terms of ambition, in terms of programming, employer development. I don't think you'll find any other APSI school that does the kind of treks that we do. The professional skill courses, I know of one other school that's got a similar range of professional skill courses. And the NLDI program, I don't think anyone has an NLDI, the Nonprofit Leadership Development Initiative. We tend to be a very ambitious office in terms of not only our services students, but developing new programs that are going to help students in every possible new way. We do not sit on our laurels, that's for sure. Does that help? You're welcome. Way in the back in the green.
Do you offer the professional development skills courses to Bologna students? And if not, do you connect them with their counterparts in DC so they can have the same opportunities?
The skills courses in DC in Bologna are actually limited to the online courses. It's partly a question of resources, absolutely. There is also no limit on when you come to Washington, since again, most of the students come to DC to do their second year, you have an opportunity to do those. So there are, Martina, correct me, four online courses. And since you can only do a maximum of 2 at a time anyway, there would be an opportunity to do that. But we don't have them. We occasionally, because we want to make sure that we're maintaining the same sort of quality, we've had different programs more on kind of a one-off basis based on needs that are expressed by the students when we're able to do that and have instructors come over so that the programs are comparable and that they meet the criteria that we have. But no, I mean, in all honesty, the program for the skills courses is pretty much limited to the online courses in Bologna.
I just want to come back to the second part of your question in the blue sweater that I didn't answer, and that's about alumni. Again, one of the reasons that I'm still here and something that makes our job so much easier is the SAIS alum. Now, again, I'm sure that all schools say they've got loyal alumni. I can't begin to tell you over the 16 years I've been here how much time alumni put in, whether that's in coming to campus and doing practice interviews, hosting students for career tracks, doing site visits. It's really quite amazing how dedicated SAIS alumni are to helping students, and that just continues on. We have a SAIS LinkedIn group. It's a closed group just for SAIS LinkedIn students and alumni. There are about 4,000 in that group right now, and we're working with Baltimore right now to try to come up with a new online alumni directory that'll give you access to all the Hopkins alumni. It's an incredibly dedicated group that really does make a huge difference in terms of your career search. I think this gentleman, you've been, sorry, yes, thank you.
Okay, For about 10% of people who come right out the undergrad without much full-time working experience, I wonder what resources you have to help them out in terms of building up their resumes, or for international students even, what resource do you have to help them?
I'm sorry to bring one down to me. We actually have a whole program of services for international students. I mean, 35% of our students here in Washington, D.C. are international students. So our office has developed a whole range of programs that include career panels, site visits, special training, outside speakers to work with international students. So if you'll stop up to our office, which is in 212, you can find one of our brochures on services for international students. I suspect it's on our website as well. In terms of students without much work experience, the good news there is that I find them, I just was in the BA/MA program a little bit earlier today, also very competitive in terms of the job market. Sometimes there's a little bit more work we need to do in terms of internships and making sure that you get the experience that you need to market yourself while you're here, a student here at SAIS. But we work very hard at that, and I think we've had a very high success rate with our students who don't have a lot of experience as well. Anybody want to add to that?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would add, seek out opportunities for leadership on campus. There's a lot of career clubs, student organizations, SGA, and employers look very favorably upon students who have exhibited those leadership qualities. And also take advantage of skills courses, because perhaps you don't have work experience, but if you can show that you're, very able to conquer certain skills and fields, then that will have weight. And many students will do internships during the school year if they're in DC. And those are often available to international students as well. So don't miss out on that opportunity.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to add to that is that part of helping a student who does not have a whole lot of work experience is explaining what some of the options are that are out there and helping them work through what they would like to try. The idea of working with you as soon as you get to campus is that for most of you, unless you're doing one of the one-year programs, you have a 2-year period of time with a summer in between. And so the idea is to try to make the most of what you're doing in each one of those semesters and particularly over that summer, so that you build your resume. It's not going to be that if you come in without any work experience that boom, you're going to get it. It's something that happens over time. And so we spend an awful lot of time talking to people about working through what would be the best array of options to have ideally in that summer before you start your second year. It informs your choices for the concentrations that you're going to go into. It informs your choices for the jobs that you're going to pursue afterwards. So, I mean, I think there's a really very strong emphasis on all that with students, whether you have work experience or not, but certainly for somebody who doesn't have work experience and needs that sort of input.
Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
And if I can just add, one of the things that I encourage students with limited work experience to do is during their first year to take advantage of the employer presentations. Yeah. We have so many employers who come to campus across all sectors, and as a first-year student, it's a great opportunity to do that career exploration that maybe other students have done in the workplace. So taking advantage of those, just sitting in and listening to find out about different types of employers, like I said, across sectors, is a really good way to get an overview and, to expand your own view.
And go on treks. Treks are a great way to cram a lot into a week. Someone over here. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize if this is also in this brochure.
It's all right.
So I'm sorry if this is already in this brochure. When are the career stats published? Like how far out after graduation?
6 months.
6 months. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That was an easy one, actually. In the back, next to the, yes.
My question is, people have been talking a lot about the professional development courses.
Right.
I guess could you explain?
There's a mic right behind you, just so you know.
Could you explain what those are? I feel like I have like a slight idea, but not full idea.
It's a good question. It deals a little bit with, SAIS is a professional school. What does that mean? You'll find when you get here that this is a professional school that's got a very heavy emphasis on academics, appropriately so. We've got great faculty, hundreds of courses, so you'll find there's a real emphasis on academics here, But we're a professional school, and we want to make sure that you also have the professional skills you need that you may or may not pick up in the classroom. So our office has come up with, I think it's 28 now, Martina? 28 non-credit courses that are short, they're not graded, but that can help be add-on skills for you during your time here at SAIS.
If I can just add, Ron, just to give you an example, this semester we've had courses in intermediate and advanced Excel, introduction to political risk analysis, carbon markets. I mean, it's just
Presentation skills.
Presentation skills, just a wide variety. Typically, they're about 10 hours of total classroom time, and while you don't receive a grade for them and they're non-credit, they are noted on your transcript, so you have bragging rights for having completed the courses.
Employers love them. They do. Yes.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is, well, the first one is, how many of these courses do students generally take during their entire time at Johns Hopkins? And actually three. And then the second one is, how are students notified of career presentations and these trips? Are they emailed, or I just would want to miss that? And then the third one is kind of specific. I'm very interested in the Foreign Service, and Michael, you briefly mentioned prepping sessions, and if you could just touch on that a little more. Thank you.
The SAIS multiple question. Let's see. So, Martina, if you could take one.
I'll take two.
Okay. Well, there was sort of a two-part to the one, and you'll be notified about skills courses, employer presentations, everything that has to do with career services via a weekly email newsletter. And here's our plug. Please read the newsletter. Read it, or at least develop really good scanning skills, because really you don't want to miss it. And resume collections, just about everything we'll note in that weekly email, and you don't want to miss a great opportunity. So that's one way, and it's posted on our internal computer system, SAIS Works, which you'll become intimately familiar with, has everything listed as well.
Take a look 24/7 at SAIS Works for all the new stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And state?
And in terms of the number of skills courses that students typically take, every year we're seeing that number rise. So I've been here almost 5 years, and initially it was maybe the average student did one. Now it's probably the average student does 3 or 4 during their time here, and that will depend. Students who've done a year in Bologna or Nanjing won't necessarily do as many as students who are on the DC campus for the full 2 years.
There's high demand for them.
And I'll use that one question to kind of talk about specialized recruiting techniques and things in developing that aspect of it. For the Foreign Service in particular, we have State Department come present on their process, and we have different employers come in and talk about the process. And that's really half of it, is how do I understand what I'm supposed to do next. And then I work with students both on their several stages, for example, writing essays for applications. There's a particular step in Foreign Service that is applicable to any different place of how you craft a message that tells a good story that you have the skills. And whether that's a generalized workshop for that or specific for the Foreign Service, that aspect, and have samples and examples for people to use. The next is, interview. They have an interview stage with everyone, and sitting you down with, whether it's us one-on-one with a mock interview, which I know now up and down everything they look at, or sitting down with an alumnus that has been through the particular process in that particular skill set is key for us. And then any of them that have group sessions, I do put together groups of students to work on mock group assessments, and those are becoming more and more common across industries. They're going to put you in a room and you're going to problem solve, and it's less about the problem and more about how nice you are about getting that problem solved in communication. So the skill sets we try to develop are applicable to lots of different areas. With that in mind, we do let students kind of drive that. I have a Google group that I've set up for the Foreign Service exam where students share information, they organize, and then I help supplement that. And we've done that around other processes where students want to prepare for the European Commission and the test, and what does that do? We want to bring students together based on your different needs, so we try to create avenues in which we can help you work together to achieve those goals.
Same thing also with people who are interested in going into consulting, getting practice with doing case study interviews. That definitely, you can't learn that in a day and then go to the interview. You have to be doing it over the course of the year if you're really going to understand how to do that and do it well in a limited period of time. So those are the sorts of things also, getting people together and trying to help them meet each other also so that they know that they're common interests.
And our career clubs drive a lot. Like their consulting and finance club are amazing as far as their own work sessions working together to kind of practice sessions.
What I really want to emphasize in the clubs is they're not just private sector oriented. They're really all the way across all the nonprofit and public sector careers as well. Again, I think it's something that really distinguishes this school in terms of the involvement of students with their professional development. And we're always looking for new social media ways to communicate with students. I'm just curious, how many of you heard tweet? So maybe about a third. We've been debating about Twitter in our office, so that's helpful. Thank you. We're always looking for new things. Yes, sir.
Patient. Raised his hand.
So it's been very interesting and informative to see how many directions people go in when they graduate from SAIS. Is there a statistic on how long it takes people to get to that first stage, either how many people have jobs at graduation or 6 months out or something relatively comparable like that?
So at graduation, and it's an informal survey, it's about half the class knows exactly what they're doing at graduation. 6 months later, this last year, 2010, it was 96%. In my time here, it's been between that 93 and 96%. Even in 2008, 2009, we were still right around 95%. So 6 months after graduation, we're in good shape. A lot depends on how much you front load your professional development work and how you balance that academic pressure versus professional development time. It's a crucial part of the equation. You're welcome.
And with that in mind, we do not encourage internships during your first semester because it is so overwhelming. But then after that, students do academic internships during the academic year and are able to get that balance. I say that now just in case you're like, oh, I want to come in and have an internship. It's really can be very stressful at the beginning.
And we also, frankly, respect the opinion of some people who decide not to do a lot of professional development until they leave here. I mean, as we've stated, this is for most of your terminal degree. Take advantage of it. But again, that's your choice in terms of when you want to be employed. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I will be the foreign student in SAIS, and considering the U.S. government trying to send all international students back to their home country, starting the day they are applying for visa to come to here, do you think foreign students need additional help? Are they subjected to additional challenges and restrictions? And how can you help them? And the second question is how we can still have access to the career service after graduation.
Okay, both great questions. In terms of the service for international students, again, I'll refer you to my earlier response to that. We have a really wide range of programs just for international students, whether that's information about visas and work authorization, interview skills, networking, because networking is different across cultures. I haven't counted the number of programs, but at least a dozen different programs just for international students. In terms of access to career services after graduation, we are with you for your life, like it or not. We really believe that because we ask our alumni to do so much for current students, and they always say yes. And I guarantee you, 5 years from now, I will be after you saying, I need you to come do a career panel. And you're going to say yes because we really develop that kind of relationship with our students and with our alumni. We keep working with you. In fact, we have a volunteer staff member in our office who just works with our alumni and our M.I.P.P. student population. So we take that responsibility very seriously. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you.
I'm just wondering, at some of the other schools I visited, they talked about students getting some consulting work occasionally on the side through the UN or the World Bank, maybe helping to write a chapter for a book at one of those institutions, things like that. Do SAIS students ever do that?
Absolutely. We have quite a number of students who, during the academic semesters, will do what are called short-term consulting at the World Bank. We find out about those we have hundreds of SAIS alumni. SAIS is well represented at the World Bank, and so we get a lot of those listings. In addition, we encourage students to target and identify and network with alumni at the World Bank if that's something that you're interested in doing.
If I can just add, some of the academic programs work on this as well, and they'll have students doing consulting projects, and they work with us to help identify instructors who can come in and teach a little consulting 101 so they can be well prepared to deal with the client.
taught by an alumnus.
And the clubs have initiatives as well where they've marketed themselves to do consulting projects, pro bono consulting projects in developing communities, things like that.
Does that help? Good. Any other questions in the green shirt? I'll come back up to you next, okay?
Thanks a lot for answering all these questions. If a student's enrolled at SAIS and then goes to do a dual degree at another school, does that student have the resources that you guys provide while they're enrolled at the other school?
The answer is yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I just have a short question. Can alumni take the professional development courses?
The alumni are always welcome to take the online courses because we don't have to limit the numbers of students enrolled. The other courses are available to alumni on a space-available basis, with the exception of the few courses that we offer where there are fees. We let alumni take a limited number of seats for two reasons. One, because it provides you a great networking opportunity with the alum, and two, it helps subsidize the cost that you're paying because we charge alumni more.
To make your fees less. Any other questions? Okay, we're in room 212 upstairs in this building. If you'd care to stop up to ask any questions, that's fine. Otherwise, good luck in your decision-making process. We're glad you're here. Thanks.